The doctor is in. Dr. Remy LeBeau, that is, in the X layer, ready to provide you the cure to all your illnesses associated with not enough exposure to the most amazing X-Men statues ever created in the history of humans. Today, the cure is this very cool statue of Cyclops as presented in his original costume, his original form, when back in the 60s he was introduced as one of the original 5 X-Men. And also, as he was introduced in the all new X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis just maybe 6 months ago, when the original 5 X-Men were brought into the present in order to try to convince Scott Summers, now a rebel leader, to tone it down a bit and become a little less, rebellious. So, aside from the fact that this is like a very cool statue of a very cool version of Cyclops, which honors the legacy of Cyclops, it also reflects like a very sort of current trend in the comics that's very popular and people are loving. So on many fronts, this is like an awesome piece to have, and I'm very happy to have them. So let's take a look at who sculpted. I'm thinking it was Kuram Alavi. I think that's the name of the sculptor, and I'm pretty sure this was sculpted digitally. Let's take a Gonda. All right, so sculpted by Kuram Alavi. I was right about that. This is number 171 out of 450. Very limited piece, very limited. Produced in 2011. This is one of 3 versions of this particular statue. The other 2 being an X Factor version and an Astonishing X-Men version. Both in my collection, both to be featured in future blog posts / videos. So stay tuned for those. Um, and it was digitally sculpted, which some folks are sort of torn about. I'm not. I like digital sculpting. Whatever, as long as the final piece comes out cool, I'm happy with it. It's got an interesting sort of X base. It's the first time that the X base was sort of extended to have this extra platform piece here. And it's got like these wires and stuff connecting the 2 pieces, which sort of implies this is like in the danger room or something. That's just the way I look at it. If you've seen my Warpath statue by Bowen Designs video blog post, he also has the same base. So obviously it's becoming like more of a popular base to use in Bowen statues. And I think what it allows for is just for like a wider stance. You can see like he's got a really sort of wide leg stance, and just I mean I guess it's just a different way to pose a character, and it looks pretty cool. I like it. I like the way it looks. Some people have issues with it. I don't. I like it. Um, so the other versions of the statue kind of have his hands and his visor in like different positions. So there are some differences between the 3 statues beyond just kind of like the costume, which is very cool. As far as like the costume goes, it's like your standard original X-Men costume. It's got the big boots, the gloves. Granny panties are actually granny shorts. They're actually not underwear. They're kind of like Daisy Dukes, but in short form. And then of course you got the X belt and that kind of the yellow portion of the costume. And then the rest is like blue, dark blue. Just standard classic X-Men colors, standard classic X-Men design. So this is the first of the 5 original X-Men statues that have been produced by Bowen Designs. He's been released, Jean's been released, Angel's been released. I have all 3 of those in my collection. The 2 others are forthcoming. I've posted a blog post recently. Right now it's May of 2013. Maybe like a week ago I posted a blog post showing the original Beast statue that's being released maybe in the next month or so. So the blog post says shipping soon. It was announced by Bowen Designs via their website that that statue is going to be shipping soon. So that's going to be the 4th in this set. I'm really looking forward to that one. That one was sculpted by the Kucherek brothers. It's looking like it's going to be a very impressive piece. and it's going to look great with these other three statues, I think. And finally, the Iceman statue was put up for sale maybe like, I don't know, 2 months ago, and it's kind of like a more coarse Iceman statue. It's not smooth, you know. It just reflects his original form in those original X-Men issues where he just didn't have complete control of his powers, so he wasn't able to refine the ice to kind of just be like a icy layer over his existing body, and thus sort of reflect, you know, having the form of like, you know, his normal anatomy and musculature. It's just kind of more coarse and rough, and just looks like snow, kind of like a snowman, which is great, which is exactly how he should look. So that's the final one. That one will probably be released in the next 6 months or so, and that will complete the original X-Men team. So for the hardcore X-Men fans, obviously this is a set to get, because it honors the you know, the original team, the original conception of these characters, which has led to the amazing sort of just uh, huge in scope and breadth um, uh, X universe. You know, with so many stories and characters and versions of the characters. Like, there's so much that's so great about them. Obviously, like, you've seen a lot of the stuff that I'm into, like, and that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as like what's out there related to these characters. It's just, it's such a it's got so much substance and variety and just popularity and obviously people easily connect to these characters, and I think they're going to be around forever, to be quite honest. So I mean, how can you not honor the original, you know, form of these characters? The way Jack, I'm pretty sure it was Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, the way they created the characters and in the original form, you know. And what's really cool, as I mentioned earlier, is that, you know, now these original five X-Men have become super prominent in the current Marvel stories, the current Marvel universe, having been brought into the present um, by Beast post AVX, in which Cyclops was kind of turned into a villain, but not really. He just kind of became like a revolutionary, um, and um, and so they're now in the present. They're driving the most interesting stories that are being released right now, that are being written right now about these characters, and it's just up in the air as far as like what's going to happen with these characters and sort of the ramifications throughout the Marvel universe, and of course explicitly within the X-Men universe, of them being brought into the present. Are they going to be sent back? What's going to happen to the time stream? Like, what are the repercussions of this huge move? But all that aside, like, it's just really great to see them sort of explore the current state of the Marvel universe, in their, you know, in their current forms, which is probably like 15 to 20 years older than they were when, you know, they were brought into the present. So they're seeing themselves older. They're finding out all sorts of things, and it's a really clever vehicle that Brian Michael Bendis allowed um, the new readers to have as sort of like a way to look into what's happening with the current stories through the perspective of characters that are just completely in the dark about what's been happening to them. So it's just a very clever sort of way of bringing in new readers and also kind of intriguing old readers. So my two thumbs up to Brian Michael Bendis for that move. I'm really happy about that. I know a lot of people are kind of torn about it. I'm happy about it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Um, but I mean, I have a small theory that the creators of Bowen Designs are somewhat inspired by what Randy Bowen does. Like, Randy Bowen decided to create these statues, like, obviously almost 3 years ago now, and 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 so and afterwards, the original five X Men were introduced into the current X Men story. So, you know, I mean, correlation is not necessarily causation, but like another sort of like piece of evidence that kind of leads me to believe this might be somewhat true is that, like, Randy Bowen decided to do a Mohawk Storm statue that you guys have seen featured on my blog. That is a very cool statue of Storm, and And now Storm in the comics has once again cut her hair down to mohawk, to the mohawk form. So, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. I think it's the chicken. You guys can ponder that. Anyway, that's my little spiel and commentary on what's been going on in the Marvel universe in relation to this very cool statue. I really look forward to having the entire set and kind of featuring that whole set in a video. So eventually, once I'm done with the individual statues, I'm going to start doing videos of sets and like kind of different versions of statues. So I've got like all sorts of interesting things coming up beyond just like the individual statues. But I am only maybe on the 20th of maybe like 60. So there's definitely about 40 more of these that are going to be posted. And that's probably going to take me about a year to do. So stay tuned, folks, for more statue fun. And eventually, when you see when the entire set is complete, like um, that will be before I'm done featuring the individual statues. So it's going to be a while before you see that. But you got to take everything one step at a time. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, according to Confucius. I think it was Confucius. Anyway, one interesting thing about this statue is that I don't know exactly what the situation was as far as like Bowen Designs choice of the colors. So this yellow is like kind of like an interesting yellow. It's kind of, I don't know. It's a little different than the yellow that was chosen for the other statues that have been released of the original team. And people online have commented on this. Other collectors have commented on this. It's sort of a strange situation. It hasn't really bothered me because when I'm looking at the display of these statues, I don't look at them closely, so I don't necessarily notice such a small sort of distinct difference between the colors, but it does exist. This might reflect the fact that initially Randy Bowen didn't intend to create five statues. It might also just reflect the fact that statues are produced at different factories in China, and they're not always completely in tune with like the right color choices that are supposed to be used. I don't know. For whatever reason, this statue has a different yellow than the other original X-Men statue yellows. It's not that big of a difference, but it exists. In my mind, the way I've justified it is like Cyclops is the leader, and he should kind of stand out, in a way that's somewhat different than the other members of the statue, just because he should have a slightly more prominence as the leader. So in that respect, it works. If it was just like Jean and everybody else had the same yellow, it might have bugged me slightly. But because it's Cyclops, who's going to be at the center, who's going to be in the front, leading the team, it doesn't bug me too much. Happy about it. Um, so I really like the pose. I really like the his hand up to the visor, sort of like pressing the button, I guess, which was like what he did or does maybe to sort of release his optic blast. Um, really like that. I love the look on his face and like the open mouth. Some people don't like open mouth. I do. It just kind of shows like the anger and sort of passion that they're feeling in the context that they might be existing in, that the statue form sort of implies. Um, which means that they're either in the midst of a battle or they're about to battle or something horrible has happened, and that's exactly what you want these characters to sort of uh, evoke, because they're always in peril and they're always living in a world that fears and hates them, and so they need to be in a state kind of reflecting that sort of vulnerability and reaction to the vulnerability, via aggression and force. Um, Probably my favorite aspect of the statue is the visor itself. You'll see some close-ups of the visor in the photos that I shot. It's just kind of got like a just like kind of like a vintagey kind of quality to it. It looks like technology from like the 60s. And they actually did a nice job. Mr. Kuram Alavi did a nice job of like just kind of even digitally sculpting the buttons onto the visor, so it looks really nice. And it just gives it that extra special sort of like distinct quality that sets it apart from like the more modern designs of Cyclops and the more modern statues that I have of him. So that's really cool. And beyond that, I think I've pretty much commented on all the aspects of the statue. The base itself, the silver, is a very nice choice and is consistent throughout the entire set so far. So that's great. The cutouts aren't made a different color. It's just all kind of silver with like some black highlights, shadowing, which is nice, and it makes them look kind of elegant. And the whole set is actually turning out to be kind of elegant and sort of just a really nice thing to look at. To again honor the original conception of these characters that was a catalyst for so much awesome stuff that has come, after their initial creation. So I honor you, my original team, as much as I can, and I thank Randy Bowen for creating such a great statue of Cyclops in his original costume. 2 thumbs up, 2 fingers crossed. All right, well, thank you very much for checking out my video and my blog, X-Men Statues of Future Past.blogspot.com. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. That is Dr. Remy LeBeau, unofficially Dr. Remy LeBeau's X-Lair. And as always, X in the box because ain't nobody checking me. Y'all take care of yourselves and stay tuned for more statue fun. Bye bye.